Afternoon, another Kerfuffle showcase. Delighted to have Ollie here from GoodLord. Ollie, all Jerry Maguire'd up. Fantastic.
Okay? And Simon all Borised up from what we were saying. The floppy hair at the start of the call. Pleasure to be here with you today.
I said that's the last time I do that. Making a mistake, pointing out that there are similarities between me and Boris. It's not right. Ollie, obviously, again, with the standard caveat we have all the time, ignoring the fact we're in the middle of a horrific pandemic, how is business going for you guys? You seem to be really just going from strength to strength this year.
Yeah, it's been a really good but challenging year, Simon. I think the pandemic forced agents to look at digital transformation in a different way, and whereas before maybe that would have been a nice to have, for many it became a necessity. And as a platform that's existed now for nearly 6 years, I think we're well placed to sort of meet that demand from letting agents, especially. So for us, it's been a very productive year, albeit extremely challenging, and the same challenges for us to any other business in terms of scaling during a pandemic, trying to onboard people remotely, trying to keep the culture alive remotely. But no, it's been a fantastic year so far.
Good. Well, look, today's show is really to talk about, obviously, we had a great session with Costas we were talking about, but today we're looking at how your rent protection and how that's helping lettings agents out. So can we just pick up on that? And again, just give, for those people that didn't catch the show with Costas, and I can't believe they wouldn't have caught up to all the content we have on Kerfuffle. Mind you, that's a bit like asking, have you watched all of Netflix at the moment? For those people that are under a rock, Ollie, just give us an overview of where GoodLord sit in the industry.
Well, I can't promise to be as interesting as anything on Netflix, but from a GoodLord perspective at the industry, we're a digital platform that supports the pre-tenancy process. So all of the documentation, administration, and processes that you have to do to get a tenant from the point that they signal they want a property to actually getting them moved in, GoodLord delivers that through the platform. So from AST creation, payments, all the relevant compliance processes that fall under that, that's all taken care of as part of the platform at GoodLord. So effectively automates that move-in process in its entirety. And alongside that, we have products that support that process. And of course, rent protection insurance is one of those that has been in the spotlight very much so since this pandemic obviously started way back in February and March time.
Understood. And so famously, I was talking to you, you'll know him well, Christian Byfield, obviously Depository. They sit at the other end of the scale, don't they, at the end of their tenancy process. And what's really, really interesting is that, even he himself, everyone's self-deprecating, said it's not particularly the exciting end of the business, is it? It's hard work. It's a hard slog, everything else there. But what's really key about it is that companies like yourselves helping out agencies on that basis is an absolute godsend for the lettings agents themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think what we've seen especially in the last sort of nine odd months, is that letting agents have reviewed their processes more now than ever before because they've had to. If cast our minds back to the first lockdown, it was a bit like walking into the unknown. How do we move our business forward? How do we actually communicate with tenants if we haven't got the filing cabinet to the right hand side? If we haven't got all of us sat in the office, passing notes back and forth, etc. So to have a platform like GoodLord that essentially takes care of that, and importantly looks after the compliance side too, which you could argue could be at risk with remote working, for example, and people being busier than ever, with a backdrop of what headcount probably being lower per agency than before, given furlough, etc. That level of automation, I think, has really come into its own, and we've believed from the very start, but I think has been more recognised this year, especially, that we're best placed to deliver that level of automation into letting agents, across the UK.
And lettings in particular, isn't it, is again just a natural home for automation. The minute you can start automating some of these processes, allows you to get to genuinely start to scale up and get that economies of scale. Because if you can do that, there's genuinely a fantastic living to be made out of lettings in the industry, isn't it? But it's hard to get there without actually creating tools and having tools like yours on hand to help with the automation piece.
Yeah, it is. And I think as well, in a market that traditionally has been quite transient in the sense of staff turnover, you lose a lot when you lose a member of staff, and then you have to build that back up again, and potentially you could lose that again. And, ideally, and I'm sure agents are trying to build the right culture, retain staff, but that knowledge can be lost for a while and then had to be retaught. So things can get missed. Processes do become weaker, they become stretched or challenged. And to have a platform behind that actually takes care of that and allows the staff base to concentrate on business generation, whether that be improved customer service or indeed winning more business. I think that's really, for our agents anyway, freed them up in a market that is still super competitive and will continue to be, in my opinion, even more competitive into next year. It frees them up to have the time, frankly, to do those things.
That's really interesting. We had the pay prop guys on the other day, and again, they were talking about that. Release yourself from the accountancy rigmarole of the process there to a large degree. Allow yourself to be more proactive, and as you said, focus on the winning business and everything else. There, that ability to specialize is where people really come into an efficient place, isn't it? A special place.
It is, and I think one of the problems we had when we first started out is we would show people our platform, and all of a sudden their minds would be transported into this new way of doing things, and they'd go, well, does it do this, and this? It's like, hang on a minute, I've just shown something that gives you like 40-50% net efficiencies. It doesn't do those things, but we're still winning over here. And actually, we've really learned that lesson. So we started to come broader in the things that we integrate into. Repeat being a good example of that. So I think it's understanding as well how far this goes, and understanding what clients want. And I certainly like to think in the last 24 months, we've become better at listening to those clients' needs and saying, actually, we'll take you on that journey with you. We'll look to really sort of make further efficiencies than we already do. So it is a changing space. And you could argue, this thing is never finished in terms of the build size. It will all progress and organically develop according to what the customer wants.
That's good, and I certainly sense that there's been obviously you're a great company beforehand, but in terms of that, really you seem to be getting much more in tune and very empathetic of the clients that you've been dealing with. I complimented, I'm sure it won't embarrass you, I was complimenting you off camera that actually some of the content, the thought leadership pieces you've been putting out there are really, really being well received. I hear back anyway from many of the agents.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of what we delivered to the market, and I think, you could argue that we had maybe become too GoodLord centric, like self-involved almost, to be critical.
All about me.
And Simon, I know that's alien to you, that feeling. But that maybe we'd become too focused on what does GoodLord actually do, and actually, when you look at it, the data points alone that we have through this platform, bear in mind, we have a cycle time with tenants, landlords and agents of anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. The data points in that platform alone are massive. And I think for us, the turning point maybe was the response to the pandemic. We got things like the lettings activity tracker set up very, very quickly. We flipped our model on things like rent protection processes. We started to utilize data points that maybe others struggle to pull together. And that allows us to have a better view of the market, but also measure our business against that and inform us in a better way to give a better service. So we recognise that change, and I'm really proud of what the marketing team especially have done over the last sort of 12 months to get us to that stage, and it just seems to get better and better.
Ollie, once more, thanks again for giving us an update.
Thanks very much, Simon. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.